Hey there. Welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 283. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to talk about today is a collection that I don't get to talk about very much because I buy a lot of Transformers, I buy a lot of Masters of the Universe figures, I buy a lot of G.I. Joe. So those are the toy lines that I get to talk about all the time. But another toy line that I'm really into, another genre, is the giant monster, the Kaiju genre. And I do collect Godzilla figures, and with some frequency I get new Godzilla figures. These days I'm getting some of the Super 7 Ultimates and some of the Super 7 Reactions. So that's pretty cool. But one film franchise that I'm a big fan of is Pacific Rim. Now, I know a lot of people hold the original film in very high regard, but a lot of people dismiss the second one. I love both of those movies. They're quite different. I actually find the second one perhaps more fun. It's almost easier for me to put in the second one and rewatch it again. The other one, the first one had a lot of setup and, really kind of world building, which is needed. And, it really made for, a fascinating movie and got me invested in that world. But, I don't necessarily need to see all the world building every time. So it's kind of nice sometimes to just throw in the Blu-ray of the second one and just jump right into the action. And they've only made 2 films, and it's been a while now. The first film, I think, is 10 years old now. And even the second one, it's got to be like 5 years old or more, 6. So, we don't get a whole lot of merchandise from Pacific Rim. Now, when the first movie had come out, there were action figures made by NECA. And I believe NECA made the Kaiju figures, which were the big monsters. And they also made the Jaggers, which are the robots. Now, I'll be honest, even though I am a fan of big robots, I grew up on Robotech, and I'm a fan of Gundam, and I am a fan of Transformers. The Jaeger designs in the first Pacific Rim movie just didn't really do it for me, especially the main character, Gypsy Danger. I just didn't like the design. So I didn't buy any of the Jaeger figures from the first film. I bought all the Kaiju figures, and I loved them, although they were a little delicate, a little brittle. I haven't had a whole lot of problems with them. My Scunner, his head broke off, but to be fair, he did fall off my shelf, so that was bound to happen. However, I've seen lots and lots and lots of people complain about the quality of the Jaeger figures from NECA. My nephews had a couple of them, and sure enough, they played with them just a little bit, and their arms all broke off. You see that all over the place. Anyway, when the second movie came out, it was Diamond Select Toys and also Bandai that had the license. So no longer NECA, which was good for the Jaggers, because I bought for one, I really liked the Jaeger design in the second movie, including the main character. Instead of Gypsy Danger, we had Gypsy Avenger. And even though the changes weren't, there wasn't a drastic change, what changes they made really worked for me, and I thought Gypsy Avenger looked a lot cooler than Gypsy Danger. So I was actually interested in buying the Jaggers from the second movie, including the evil Jaeger, Obsidian Fury, is that his name? Anyway, I thought he looked awesome. So, so I bought the Jaggers. And I bought some of them from Diamond Select, and I bought some of them from Bandai. Both companies were making them. I probably prefer the Bandai versions. They're a little smaller. They're a little more posable. But the Diamond Select were bigger and more detailed. They had the paint jobs looked a little bit more like a matte finish instead of kind of a shiny plastic finish. So, it's really a personal preference which one you like better. And then there was I was really disappointed, and I think a lot of people were, with the amount of Kaiju figures from the second movie, because Diamond Select only made 1 Kaiju, and then Bandai made 3, like the 3 main Kaiju. But that was it. And so you could only buy 4 Kaiju figures from that whole movie, and 2 of them were the same character, just made by different companies. I ended up getting a bunch of Jaggers. I forget how many I have, probably 6 to 8 Jaggers from the second movie, but only 3 Kaiju. Kind of disappointing as somebody who's much more of a Kaiju fan than a Jaeger fan. Anyway, after that movie came out, there was very quickly no more product. It seems like, they were just pumping out toys while the movie was out, and then it was done. And that's been kind of a bummer because I really love the designs of the Pacific Rim Kaiju. And then there was the Netflix series came out a couple of years ago, which was Pacific Rim Black. And we only got a single figure from that series, and it was a Jaeger figure from Bandai. So I bought the figure, of course, and it's a nice figure, but I'm like, why didn't we get figures of all the Kaijus? The monsters are the ones that I want to see. And in the last couple of months, Diamond Select Toys has been re-releasing some of their old releases from a couple of years ago when Pacific Rim Uprising was in theaters. And they're also releasing new paint jobs on a lot of those Pacific Rim Uprising Jaeger figures. And I have pre-ordered all of them. So you've got them in like jungle camo, or you've got them in desert camo. So it's the same toys, just with a new paint job, which is cool. That's pretty typical in the toy industry. Repaints is kind of part of the game. I have a ton of Transformer repaints and a ton of G.I. Joe repaints. So getting the Pacific Rim Jaggers is kind of cool, but I really want to populate my Pacific Rim shelves with new Kaiju. And still no word if we're getting any new Kaiju figures. However, before I get into the focus of this video, which is a Diamond Select Toys Jaeger figure, it was just recently revealed, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago, I think it was at New York Comic Con in October, that Todd McFarlane Toys, had the Pacific Rim toy license. So that was very promising because McFarlane is known for making, big, detailed, realistic, gory action figures and releasing them at pretty good prices comparatively to a lot of the other toy companies. So I thought he was a perfect choice, and I was really, really hoping that we were going to see some new monster figures. And I have some of his recent Spawn figures like Violator and Monolith, and those figures didn't break the bank, and yet they're really big chunks of plastic. So I thought, yeah, if he can make me some Kaiju in line with what I got from NECA back in the day when the first movie came out, that would be awesome. However, just about a week or two after the announcement in October, his first wave of Pacific Rim figures have gone up for pre-sale. And I was disappointed. Like, I will reserve judgment because I still think they're kind of cool, but it's just not what I was expecting from McFarlane Toys, because he's releasing what he calls 4-inch scale, which has me a little bit worried because I haven't really seen any images of them like next to any objects that I can judge what he means by 4-inch scale. Because if he says the figures are 4 inches, that I can wrap my head around. But if it's 4-inch scale, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to be, because when I think 4 inches, I usually think like, G.I. Joes are 3 3/4 inches. Reaction figures from Super 7 are 3 3/4 inches. So I have a lot of figures, old Star Wars figures, 3 3/4. I have a lot of figures in that scale. But anyway, these Pacific Rim figures, they come with a character, they come with a skyscraper that can break apart, and they come with little military vehicles, and they come with a comic book too. So it's a nice package, and they're retailing for, I think it's $20 American. I'm in Canada, so those are probably going to be more like $30 Canadian. But one reaction figure here in Canada costs me anywhere from $25 to $30. So if I'm getting a figure in scale with a reaction figure, plus a building, plus vehicles, plus a comic book, $30 I still think is a totally acceptable price. But anyway, I'll put in some pictures here of what he has revealed. So the first wave has, I want to say 8 figures. So there are 4 Jaggers and 4 Kaiju. So that's promising. That's the kind of line I can get behind. Even though I'm mostly in it for the Kaiju, I totally accept that we need to get some Jaggers to go along with it. But if we can keep it going at kind of an even pace, that would be excellent. So we got for the Jaggers, and these are all based on the first movie only so far. So we got the main guy, which is Gypsy Danger. Then we got Cherno Alpha, which is the guy that looks like a nuclear power plant. And then we've got Crimson Typhoon, which was the 3-armed red Jaeger that's got the 3 pilots. And lastly, I think it's Striker Eureka, which I believe is the Australian piloted Jaeger. So we get those 3 guys, or those 4 guys, and they all come with a building and 2 little vehicles each. Then for the Kaiju, we get Knifehead, who is probably my favorite. And then we get Otachi, which is the guy with the wings. We got Leatherback, which is the big gorilla-looking one. And then we got Raiju, which is very cool because he is a character that's never had a toy before. So, even though it's cool to get new versions of the characters that I love, I really wanted to fill in some gaps in my old collection. So to get Raiju, very cool. It's unfortunate that these toys are almost a totally separate collection from all my other Pacific Rim because the scale is so far off. But I'm willing to kind of start afresh with a new Pacific Rim collection in the smaller scale. It's got potential there, even though the figures are smaller than I'd like. I do collect Super 7's Reaction Godzilla figures, which I actually just got a bunch of new ones in, and I'm going to be reviewing them in a later video. But you see here, like this is the Megalon, and I've got a Godzilla here. So you see these figures here are 3 3/4, approximately 4 inches, and I've got a good sized collection of these guys. And as I have these guys displayed on my shelf, I kind of thought, like, wouldn't it be nice if there was like little buildings and little micro machine tanks that I could display around these guys to kind of, give a sense of scale. So anyway, if the reaction figures are the same scale as these guys, like the same size, and they come with the buildings and the vehicles, I can display them with my Godzilla reaction figures, and I think that could end up being a really cool display. I'm really kind of looking forward to that. Now, the pictures that I've seen online, the figures seem to kind of lack detail. They look like they're articulated, probably not much more than a reaction figure. The reaction figures only have 5 points of articulation. McFarlane's look like they might have some knees and elbows on the Jaggers, probably not for the Kaiju. So we might be looking at, 7 or 8 points of articulation. Anyway, I'm really curious to see what they're going to look like. I only learned about them in October. Here it is. It's the first week in November as I shoot this, and these toys are expected to be released this month. So ideally, I'd like to see some other people online get them first and maybe post some reviews so I can get a sense of, is this a line I want to get into? But chances are I probably won't get a chance. I've already pre-ordered them. They'll probably be in stock and they'll ship to me before I have a chance to see anybody else review them. So when I get them, I'll review them for you guys, and hopefully none of us are disappointed. But I still have my fingers crossed that McFarlane will, besides do the smaller figures, that he will do a line of larger, figures that are in line with my previous releases from NECA and from Bandai and from Diamond Select. Now, that brings me to the subject of this video. So forgive that little kind of rant. I am excited about new Pacific Rim figures. And so when Diamond Select announced all of their repaints, as I said earlier, I pre-ordered all of them, but I don't have any of them yet. I was looking forward to them because some of those toys I really like, and getting a fresh paint job is kind of cool. And then San Diego Comic-Con happened in the summer, and they announced a 2-pack of their repainted toys that was going to be available at San Diego exclusively, and then whatever stock they had remaining was going to go up for sale online. I obviously was not in San Diego Comic-Con, but I did purchase one of these sets online, and it showed up here the other day. So, this here is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive 2023 Pacific Rim box set. I don't know if it has a fancier name than that. But yeah, on the front there you get, it looks like the doors to, what do they call it? The Shatter Dome. It's been a while since I've watched the movie actually, but that kind of warehousey look, kind of grimy, I believe it was called the Shatter Dome, where they housed all of their Jaggers. And then on the back, you get some kind of blueprints, some specs of the Jaeger armor on here. On the side, there's some windows, so you kind of see some of the accessories that you get with each of the two figures in the pack. Not much else to see otherwise. But then the box, it opens up. These doors are kind of, there's I think a little magnet in there that holds them closed. But with just a little bit of force, you can bring those open. And there you see the figures inside. I know you can't see them very well right now, but I am going to open this up and we will take a closer look at them. And then on each side of the flaps there, the panels, you get kind of a blueprint of each character. So I think you can see here that this is Gypsy Danger, the kind of the main Jaeger from the first movie, along with Gypsy Avenger, the main Jaeger from the second movie. So this is a repaint of a figure that I already have. I believe. I think it's just a straight repaint. They might have made some changes to the parts. I'm not sure. I can do kind of a comparison once I get them open. But this is my first ever Gypsy Danger figure because, as I mentioned earlier, I did not buy any of the Jaggers from the first movie that NECA had released. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys are all about. These are my first new Pacific Rim figures in a few years, so it's pretty exciting. And yeah, I've actually been sitting on these figures for about 2 weeks because I wanted to shoot this intro where I could show you the box, because it is a nice box, but I'm going to unfortunately have to tear it apart so I can get to these figures. But I wanted to make sure you guys saw that. So now that you've seen the box, we're going to open this up, take a closer look at the figures. So why don't we do that right now? So here are Gypsy Danger and Gypsy Avenger outside of the packaging. I am shooting this segment 2 days later than my previous segment. I actually just rewatched my intro so I could do some editing. I do apologize for the long talk about the McFarlane Toys. It was just something I was eager to talk about. So if you tuned in for just the review of these toys, hopefully you just skipped past all that and got to this point here. Although one last thing I want to mention that I forgot to mention, obviously, in the earlier part, was that besides the 8 figures that I showed you that come individually packaged with the comic book and the buildings and the vehicles, there was also an Amazon exclusive set which featured 3 figures, 4 buildings, 2 comic books, and 24 little military vehicles. Now, a lot of the military vehicles are repeats, so you don't get 24 unique vehicles. But that's a pretty cool set, and I did also pre-order that one. So besides the 8 figures I pre-ordered from Big Bad Toy Store, I did also pre-order the box set, which they call the Gold Label Starter Set, I believe. So I pre-ordered that from Amazon. And that's the one that I probably will have in hand first, I would expect. So yeah, when that shows up, I'll post another review and we'll talk about it. The 3 figures are not unique characters. It's got another Gypsy Danger and another Striker Eureka, although I think the paint jobs are unique. And then there is another Kaiju figure, but he has got his head opened up because in the movie his kind of jaw separated, his head split into like 3 different directions, and he had kind of a little another smaller head inside, almost like the alien from the movie Aliens. And so yeah, this version of him has his head split open. So that's kind of cool that you get that variant. But at the same time, it was kind of a pain in the ass that made me, if it was all the same figures, I maybe could have skipped it. But the fact that they changed up Kaiju made me want to purchase that set as well. Anyway, so now let's talk about these San Diego figures. So they're pretty cool. I like the way they look. But right out of the box, my first impression is that these guys are very stiff. I guess I had kind of forgot that. It's been a while since I've handled a Diamond Select action figure, especially a Pacific Rim one. It would have been since Pacific Rim Uprising came out in 2018. So yeah, these guys are stiff. Like, I'm sure they can probably move better than what I'm about to show you, but I haven't bothered to take the time to heat them up with a hairdryer or anything.
And like his arms, it's kind of hard to see because the shoulder blade, for example, is in place. And it's hard to even really see the joint in there to see what's going on. And just from touching him, it feels like his arms can't go out at all. Like that's basically the movement I get. If I put any force on it, I'm scared I could break his arms off. And maybe that's not fair because, yes, NECA had a really bad reputation for breaking the arms off. I don't know if Diamond Select has that same issue. I hadn't heard about that issue. I do have some of their figures. I haven't had that problem. I don't remember them being this stiff. But this guy feels really stiff. So it's hard for me to comment much on the articulation. Now his elbow moves fine, so he's got some good movement there, but not a ton. Like I don't think he can really straighten his arm out. So it's kind of got that little bend in it, and you can bend it forward about that much more. The legs. Now you can see the joint there. It might be kind of hard on camera, but like it is just a little teeny piece of plastic holding these big heavy legs onto this torso. So again, they're very stiff too. They can move forward and backward some. I feel he should be able to do the splits a little bit, but I'm really scared to tug on this plastic because that, like I can kind of tell on that ball joint there that this leg should be able to slide out like that. But I definitely don't want to mess with it until I've heated it up some. So, you know, that's not that uncommon. You see it more on like designer toys from independent toy makers. I think that Diamond Select is big enough. You know, you never have to heat up your Hasbro or your Mattel toys, really. It's more things from like Valaverse or the Four Horsemen. So it's a little bit disappointing when you open up a toy and you immediately want to start playing with it, and then you realize, oh, I got to take the time out to either soak it in warm water or take a hairdryer to it so it can move. So yeah, we're not going to talk much about the articulation. As far as the design of him, like the paint job looks really cool. It's got this, I don't know, kind of almost this metallic-y wash to it that I don't know if it's supposed to be kind of battle damage. Like there's all kinds of little scratches in the metal. So rather than just be like a solid blue like you would expect him to look when he rolled off the assembly line, it doesn't really look like battle damage so much as just wear and tear to maybe give it a bit more of a real world feel. I wish I did have the prior release of this guy that we could maybe compare to, but I don't. So anyway, this is, I would describe this as kind of a premium finish. A lot of mainstream toys you get nowadays, they don't have this much attention to detail, like all these different little paint hits with all those silvers and reds and whites and yellows, and then the wash over it all. And the yellows are different, like he's got a bright yellow here, but then he's got kind of a gold over his visor. So yeah, a really nice sculpt. Like look at all that detail in his legs there. I like how he's got the little ankle articulation, so that will help you pose him. Now mind you, I don't think I can get him any poses other than standing at attention right now, but hopefully if I heat him up, he'll be able to have some wider stances and maybe, put his arms up and, can pose him in some battle poses. And the fact that he's got that ankle articulation, that should help me pose him. He does swivel at the waist there, so that seems to be moving okay. But anyway, yeah, it's a cool figure. I still don't like this design very much. It's hard for me to pinpoint exactly what I don't like. I don't like the head, for starters. But on its own, it's like the head's not too bad. I just feel the way maybe it's connected to the torso. It looks like sunken in, and it looks like too small for the rest of the body. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain. I don't know how other people feel about this. If you have any thoughts on it, comment below. Do you love the Gypsy Danger design? Do you think it's better than Gypsy Avenger? And if you do, are you just thinking that way because the movie was better, the first one, than the second one? Because as I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people think the second movie is kind of dumb, and it had a different director and all different actors and stuff. So it almost felt like a whole different, well, I don't know, a whole different movie, but you know what I mean. The continuity just wasn't quite the same. Anyway, I loved it. I thought it was fun. And this design, I really like. Like the head feels proportionate with the rest of the body. He doesn't look, I don't know, there's something about that one that looks kind of weirdly feminine. No, not that there's anything wrong with a female robot or something, but just for your big hero bot that's piloted by a couple of men, I think it is kind of weird to have this kind of feminine shaped robot. Now, when it comes to Gypsy Avenger, he doesn't have that same issue. You can see he's taller. Now, I'm not sure if that's would actually be the case. I assume so. Like, I'm guessing that Diamond Select made all these figures to scale whatever the specs were when these characters were designed. Like, I know some of their other characters, I think it's maybe Bravo Omega or something, he was much shorter. So they do range in height. It does seem kind of weird that the hero from the first movie is so much smaller than the hero from the second movie. Especially because I always assumed this ship was maybe just built on top of this one, like an upgrade. In which case, I don't know why it would have grown so much in height. But anyway, really cool. This guy is also quite stiff. His head seems to be kind of off to the side, and I try and straighten it out. But it seems to just kind of want to default back to its looking over there. And I feel like it should be able to move more than I'm able to move it, but it's very limited. His arms as well. You can see in there that ball joint. The shoulders kind of float, which kind of indicate that you should have more room to play with if you want to lift his arms up. But again, the articulation, those joints are just so stiff that that's about as far up as his arms are willing to go right now. The legs also, so he can do the splits quite a bit better. He's got rocker ankles. He can bend at the knee. Yeah, man, those joints scare me. I thought I broke him just now when I moved his knee. I heard a little clack up there, and I thought maybe it cracked. So yeah, these guys, I feel they're kind of delicate, so play carefully with these guys. And man, they're too big. I can barely fit them on screen here. Now, as far as the scale goes, I don't have a ruler with me or anything, but compared to, say, a standard 6-inch figure, so here is a G.I. Joe classified figure. This is my new Chuckles figure, who I will be reviewing soon, probably the next time my buddy Chad comes over. We'll do a joint review on that guy. So there you can see scale-wise. So if he's about 6 inches, he's about 8, and he's maybe like 8.5, something like that. That's just me eyeballing it. So yeah, they're good size figures. For accessories, so I haven't opened these up yet, and I don't know if there's much need. This is how they came in the package. I just slipped these sleeves out of each side of the package. So this one is for Gypsy Danger. So he's got 2 alternate open hands, and then he's got his chain sword here, and then he's got his like plasma cannon. What do they call it? They call it the plasma caster, is what it says on the side of the box. So that's basically his gun, his sword, and his extra hands. Here, maybe I'll pop those open right now so we can get a closer look at them. Okay, so here are the extra hands. So they're not very exciting, but that's good, I guess, if you want them to maybe wrestle with the Kaiju rather than punch them out. Then here is the plasma caster, plasma cannon, whatever you want to call it. It also has that nice, consistent, like kind of metallic wash over it, so it would, it matches up with the figure. Now you should just be able to plug this in. You pop one of his hands out and plug this on in place of it. I am not going to try that on camera because I'm a little too scared it could break. I don't think I'm going to display him with this anyway. Like it's fine, but I prefer him with the hands. But one thing I will do once I heat this guy up is I will probably replace his other arm over there with this arm. So he's still got the fist on it. And is that still articulated? Doesn't feel like it. So I think that's all just one piece. It doesn't feel like that wrist moves separately. But he's got his chain sword there. So yeah, I am going to give him that because I think that looks pretty cool. So those are his accessories. Now, as for Gypsy Avenger, he's got pretty much the same stuff. So here's his. So he has got 2 hands, the sword, the plasma caster, there's his plasma caster, But then this here is also his gravity sling, which if you remember in the movie, he could use this to kind of make a little electric whip and pick up some cars and then smash that on the Kaiju's face. So I'll quickly pop these open and we'll take a look at them as well. Okay, so here are Gypsy Avengers extra hands. So again, not much to see there. There's lots of nice detail and everything. Multiple colors in there, so that's nice. But anyway, then he has his plasma caster there as well. So again, multiple paint apps. Looks nice. Okay, so it is different. So they did evolve the plasma caster from one movie to the next, I guess. And then there's the sword. So let's see compared to the other sword. So those are slightly different as well. And I'm going to assume if the other hand didn't have any articulation, this one doesn't either. Nope, no wrist articulation or anything there. So I don't know. I might replace both of them and give them both their swords. I'm not sure. And then there's also the gravity sling, which looks pretty similar to the caster, just the fact that it has these kind of 3 claw-like things. I think I prefer giving him a hand instead of having this as well, so I don't know if I'll display him with this piece or not. But anyway, it's pretty cool. And the color scheme matches up to the figure, which I guess I kind of forgot to mention. This guy here, he's got all that premium deco. This guy here, not so much. Like, he's pretty flat. Like, it's a couple of different grayish blues on top of one another, but it definitely doesn't have that wash that brings out all that detail. So every time you see a seam here, it kind of gets lost a little bit in the paint. Whereas on the other one there, he's got all that wash that really brings out all that stuff. Like even here, this thing in the center. So it's got the, what do they call these? I don't know. I'll just say his arc reactor. But, you know, it's got kind of a different shades of blue. But all those spirals and stuff, they don't really have their own detail. This guy here looks like it's brought out a little bit more on Gypsy Danger. Maybe not. I don't know. But I think those ridges do stand out from the base color. So again, it might just be a wash that they put over it. But anyway. And so this design here, it says on the box, let me, 1 second here. So it says the box set of battle damaged Gypsy Danger. So I guess this is supposed to be battle damage on this guy. And Shakedown Test Gypsy Avenger commemorates the 10th anniversary of Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim, the groundbreaking film released in 2013, and the 5th anniversary of Pacific Rim Uprising, released in 2018. So there you go. I did have the years right, that it was 10 and 5 years since those movies. I didn't necessarily realize the set was released to commemorate those years, but okay. So interesting. So this is like the test armor. I don't know what that means necessarily. If maybe this is the color that they painted this thing before it was officially launched as part of the arsenal. It's just an excuse, I'm sure, to paint him a different color and re-release the figure. I'm glad they did give him a unique paint job, and it's not too far off from the previous paint job that he was featured in the movie. You know, it's not like he's yellow or green or something crazy now, although not that I'm opposed to that necessarily. But here is my Gypsy Avenger figure that was previously released by Diamond Select. So I do believe that this figure, this new one, is a straight repaint, just at a glance. They do appear to be the same height. They have, looks like all the same parts, all the same sculpting throughout. I'm not noticing any differences there. I don't know, what do you guys think? It looks the same to me. Now this figure here, he features the blue paint job that he had in the movie, which was kind of the same color as Gypsy Danger here. Now I'm going to guess that the previously released Gypsy Danger figure looked like this, like just kind of a solid dark blue. And I don't know if that blue is really coming across, but yeah. So you can definitely see how they've kind of up the ante with this guy with all that metal battle damage, I guess. So, yeah, he looks good. Although, looking at them side by side, knowing that the previous release of this figure probably looked like this guy, I almost feel they might have overdone it with the battle damage. Like, the color is almost unrecognizable because he's got so much of that metallic sheen that I don't know if I love it. I'm fine with it because, like I said, I don't really love that design of that character anyway. Anyway, he's fine. And the last figure I wanted to bring out here, this is the Gypsy Avenger that Bandai had put out. And these are the ones that I had preferred. Like, they're smaller, but they move really well. They're super articulated. Now, they have a more of a plasticky feel to them and, like, look to them. So I don't know if you can really see that when I stand them next to each other. Again, my lighting is not very good. I really got to work on my lighting in this room here. But, even this guy that doesn't have that kind of crazy deco, he's got that matte finish. He looks a little bit more real world, where this guy looks more like a toy of this character. So, anyway, that's, I think, really all I have to say about these guys. It's a pretty solid set. Is it worth what I paid for it? I don't know. I think this set was either 70 or 80 American dollars. So in Canadian dollars, that's up over $100 plus the shipping and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. This figure hasn't really changed my mind about Gypsy Danger. I would have been fine not having him in my collection, especially now that I'm going to get McFarlane's little mini version anyway. And then as far as Gypsy Avenger goes, I do like the new color scheme. I actually might prefer it. Like, when I look at these two colors, these two figures next to one another, the fact that he has the different shades of gray, it breaks up the sculpt a lot more than this one, who just looks like kind of a solid blue block. So, I don't know. It's cool, but it's not different enough that I really think it warrants spending $100 necessarily. But anyway, I'm just happy to get new Pacific Rim figures. It was fun opening these guys up and playing around with them.
So that was my review of the new Pacific Rim Gypsy Danger and Gypsy Avenger San Diego Comic-Con 2-pack from Diamond Select Toys. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me comments below. And what are your thoughts on McFarlane's new toys that he has revealed? Let me know below. I'm curious what the fandom thinks. I haven't really got a chance to speak to anybody else about it. I don't really know any other Pacific Rim fans, so I'm kind of alone in my little cone of excitement. But I know people out there are interested in it. My Pacific Rim review video, where I reviewed all of the Kaiju figures from the first movie, that video of mine has way more views than any other video I have ever done. I have done nearly 300 videos, and most of my videos have like maybe a couple hundred views. That one has like 100,000 views. So people out there are interested in Pacific Rim figures. I know they are. So I'm glad to see we're getting more. Hopefully it's a success for McFarlane Toys. And maybe even if he wasn't planning on releasing larger scale figures initially, if his smaller scale figures sell really well, then that means hopefully he will expand on that line. And he will maybe also start releasing larger figures, which I think a lot of fans want to see. So anyway, that's enough of this. Why don't I wrap things up, and I'm going to do another video where I'm going to talk about some of those Godzilla reaction figures, because I'm dying to open these guys up too. But anyway, I'll see you back then for that video. So catch you later. Ciao.